Hey everybody, welcome to an abbreviated version of Liam's Hockey, brought to you of course by Hosie and Brown Automotive. We'll be back with more standard, longer show a little bit later on in the week and bring up the next set of garages that they want to highlight as part of their title sponsorship. But for now, given the news in Montreal, got a way in. Wasn't just good enough for them to get the win over Ottawa. They had to make quite a spectacle of the whole thing by the dismissal of Stephane Waite. And it's been a hot button topic. Obviously, I'm very partial to the Habs, as most of you know. So I want to throw in my own 2 cents. And got a little bandage on here. Little operation yesterday. For those who are friends of mine, probably familiar with last year, I had a similar operation on my left hand. Got it done yesterday, and I'll be up and going on the golf links in lots of time for opening tee at Rideau in May. But for now, 30 or so stitches and a bit of a cast, but we'll be rocking in a couple of weeks. So anyway, Stephane Waite's dismissal last night to me was a product of, first of all, I listened to the press conference, Marc Bergevin today in Montreal, which he did in French and English, obviously. And I also caught Carey Price's after. And so I got comments on both of those. Stephane Waite's dismissal, to me, was certainly came out of left field. I was totally shocked to hear it. Still kind of reverberating in the feel-good win. Anytime you beat your rival, Ottawa or Toronto, it's good stuff. Tyler Toffoli keeps it going, gets the empty netter, make it 3-1. Habs power play with 2 goals, and big penalty kill in the first on our killing off the double minor to Armia, and certainly a couple of other penalty kills after that. Both have been nemesis for Montreal this year. So big win. Carey played okay. He played okay to good. He was really good in the first period, and frankly, I didn't like the goal that was scored on him. I thought it was, for an elite goalie, I thought it was stoppable. But given where he's coming from and his performances recently, he allowed only 1 goal. He was 26 for 27 on the shots, I believe. Got the W. They've got 3 out of 4 points. You're heading out to Winnipeg to hopefully avenge a couple of games against them recently, and Bob's your uncle. As it turns out, no, maybe Stephane Waite's your uncle. So the word comes out about the dismissal. Today, as we find out, Marc Bergevin actually let him know, sounds like anyway, although most of that was in French, but from what I could gather, it sounds like it happened at the end of the second period last night and then cemented at the end of the game. So that's sort of loosely how I took it anyway. It was an unusual scenario. What it speaks to me is, in the recent days here, since the dismissal of Claude Julien in particular and Kirk Muller, that Dominic Ducharme and Alex Burrows come in, and there had to be a disconnect here in the last 7 days. The reason I say that, for me, is on Saturday, it was reported by many media sources out of Montreal that Dominic Ducharme had said, we are going to give Carey Price enough time with Stephane Waite in the next few days or whatever length of time here to get himself right, get himself ready again. He knows he needs to be better, and I'm paraphrasing there a little, but this all was presented on Saturday, which led me, when I did my last official Liam's Hockey, to say, get ready for the Jake Allen era here as number 1, at least in the short term. And I fully expected him to start last night, and I think many people did. So when it was announced it was Carey, I was surprised, and then pleasantly so when he went out and played the first period that he did. Made a couple great saves off Brady Tkachuk. He was sharp. He was out at the end of the crease. He was challenging. He looked like a big body in net as opposed to not. And other than some sloppy play still, I mean, he mishandled 3 pucks badly last night. And that's supposed to be his forte. One of his fortes anyway. One in particular where he just handed it right to Brady in front of the net all by himself. So these things can't happen. Anyways, Montreal got the win. They did enough. Caught Ottawa on the back end of a doubleheader, and the Habs did enough and got the W. That happens in the league. You're not apologizing to anybody. You beat a rival. You look good doing it. So all good. But there had to be a disconnect in the last 7 days. Could it be something as simple as Stephane Waite going to Dominic Ducharme, coaching staff, and ultimately maybe even to Marc Bergevin saying, hey, hold on a second here. We don't need to be hearing this about your number one goalie, who I'm working with. He takes the net, and I need my input here. I'm the goalie coach. You're paying me to be here. This is my thoughts and whatever. And did that start the fire? And I think it probably did. Was there a smoldering burn already? I think so. Stephane Waite's been here over 7 years. Carey Price has regressed badly in the last 3. It's funny reading the comments about people saying, hey, he had a great year in 2019. Are you kidding me? He was 17th and 20th in save percentage and goals against average. What's great about that? He's not even in the top 10. His numbers have been lower than average, even in the last 3 years. Just not good enough. Take the contract out of it. He's your starter. You want your starter, if you're on what you think is a playoff team, to have at least average numbers. He hasn't even had average numbers, despite the fact they threw all this money at him in an unprecedented goaltending contract. So, I got no problem with the dismissal at all. None. And I had nothing against Stephane Waite. I'm not at the practices. I don't know what's going on there. But I know this. I see the results, and they're not good enough. And he's been there 7.5 years. And, he came in the year before. Montreal went to the semis, and Carey was outstanding. The next year, he was even better. Who's changed over that? Well, I think Carey's regressed for sure. But as a goalie coach that's been there with the same guy that length of time, has their relationship gotten to the point where it's a mutual admiration society? And I think it's safe to say it probably was. I don't think that's a condemnation on either Carey or Stephane. That's human nature. And I think at this point, Marc Bergevin was thinking maybe something needs to be done along these lines. He's just let a head coach go and a longtime assistant coach. And then you get a new head coach, and I think something transpired because on Saturday it was presented to us as fans that Carey Price and Stephane Waite were going to take a little break and work on some things. And as soon as everybody was ready, he'd come back in. But for now, we're gonna ride Jake. And then Carey starts last night. So somewhere in this past 72 to 96 hours, this thing came to a head. That's how I feel. That's how I think it went down. Enter Sean Burke. Final piece here, this short one. Sean Burke is already part of the Montreal staff. So he's familiar with Marc Bergevin. He's got familiarity with the goalie coach in Laval. He's been scouting for the Habs. He has obviously a dotted resume for sure as a player. A long time, various degrees of success, however you want to measure it, but certainly as good or better than a lot of other goalie coaches that are out there. And not only that, he's being brought in as Director of Goaltending. So he's going to oversee all of Montreal's goaltenders. American Hockey League, your Lindgrens and Primos and what have you, and now Price and Jake Allen. Additionally, he'll be working with Carey. So this is a new voice. And if you know Sean, if you remember Sean, he's a combative person. He's a high-spirited, high-strung guy. He was quite willing and able and always to be physical on the ice. Guess what? Carey used to be that way too. Not even that long ago. Like, we need that fire back. We need him challenging. We need him to address every game. He's had this mantra, as I wrote yesterday, where, keep calm and carry on and telling everybody to relax. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's fine, Carey. It's in your nature. It's innate in you to be that way. But I think you need to have a little bit more Marc-Andre Fleury in you. Marc-Andre Fleury plays every game and like it's Game 7 OT. He fights for every save. And I just don't have that impression, and I haven't for a few years with Carey. And I think Sean Burke is the perfect guy to get that back. So I'm extremely happy with the Burke promotion to Director of Goaltending. I've got no problem with the Stephane Waite dismissal. And now the final piece is Carey and his presser. And look, he didn't want to be there. That was quite apparent. His answers were short, abrupt, and which is the same thing, I guess. And just he wasn't very forthcoming about anything. And the big question that blew up within 30 minutes was from Eric Engels, follows the team very closely, great reporter, who asked him his comments about how he's being perceived by fans and media alike in terms of the negative comments that have festered about his play, and thinking how poor he's gotten. I'm paraphrasing, and Carey said, "I don't care," and just like that, I don't care. And so now there's a perception that, okay, now he's really pissed off. He doesn't care, and now he's not going to care about the team, and he's not going to care about his effort. And how quickly can I move my no trade and get out of here? I don't see it that way, but I think we could have had a better answer from him. It is what it is. It's 2021. He's 33 years old. If it was in the 70s or 80s or before, you would have got a different answer from a player. They would never have been so abrupt in under any circumstances, shock or not. And the fact he wasn't consulted, I think he's upset, and I think he demonstrated that in this interview. Well, guess what? We're going to find out as early as 36 hours from now when they play the Jets, and I'm assuming he'll be starting. If not, he's playing one of the next two for sure. Let's see what we got for an effort from the guy. If he wants out of here, it can happen. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's got too much pride. I think he's got too much love for the city. And I think he really does care for a lot of his teammates. And I think he can see the moves that Marc Bergevin made to improve this team. And I think he knows he's got one hell of a goalie partner in Jake Allen. And there is a ton of positivity around this team, not the least of which, from an incremental basis, they've got 3 out of the last 4 points, and they moved up at least a little bit solidly, more solid, into a playoff spot in the top 4 in the North. So take the little victories here, Carey, and move on. We'll know very soon if this is something that's really weighing on him, the fact that his goaltender coach was dismissed summarily last night during a game that Carey was in the process of playing in and winning. Unusual, for sure, no doubt about it. But having said that, I got no problem, as I said, with the dismissal or the hire. Marc Bergevin's presser, I just think, you caught Carey at a bad time. As a Hab fan, I'm still here to back him, and it's up to him. It's up to him to show us. Move beyond it, buddy. Take the new voice. Put your big boy pants on. It's a business. So you don't have your little hand holder here that you've had for 7.5 years, and get your friggin' game back. Get it back to where it can be. We saw it in the bubble. I said it the other day. I got sucked in. Pittsburgh mailed it in, and Carey played great, but Pittsburgh mailed it in. And I kind of took that. Then they won 6 games. They lost to Philly. Carey played really good. Yeah, he did. But they lost. He hasn't stolen one or anything. Who's comparing him to Patrick Waugh? Patrick Waugh had 10 overtime games, 96 minutes of shutout hockey, 1993. Please, come on. Not even the same area code as Patrick Waugh yet. So go and get it done now, Carey. Get it done. And step up and be the guy we all feel and think you can be. Finish on this little hockey history for you here. Wrap this puppy up. March 3rd, which is today's date, 1968, to me, is the greatest day, month, and year in hockey history. I mean, you can pick a lot, right? You can say, the Gretzky trade or a bunch of other things. But I think March 3rd, 68. Let me tell you why. Jean Beliveau got his 1,000th point. In a 5-2 loss to Detroit, he got a goal, and it was assisted by Bobby Rousseau and Dick Duff. So that's one thing. Jean Beliveau, second guy to get 1,000 points. Gordie Howe was the first. Pretty big. March 3rd, 1968, the aforementioned Red Wings and the Toronto Maple Leafs made one of the biggest trades in NHL history. Ullman, Henderson, Smith, Norm Ullman, Paul Henderson, and Floyd Smith from Detroit to Toronto for Frank Mahovlich, Gary Unger, Pete Stemkowski, and the amateur rights to Carl Brewer. Then later on, Toronto also threw in Doug Barry. So you got an 8-player deal, including some pretty big names, changing teams on this date, same year, 1968. The third one is the biggest. 2 days earlier, on March 1st, 68, the roof blew off the Philadelphia Spectrum. They had to play their home games elsewhere. 2 member teams in the NHL and a team city outside the NHL stepped up. Toronto Maple Leafs with Maple Leaf Gardens, Quebec City with the Colisée, and Madison Square Garden in New York, where the Rangers played. So the scheduling confines 2 days later and everything else, by the time they were able to rejig the schedule and get them to play elsewhere, they needed to play a game against the Oakland Seals, and they had no home arena. So the NHL went to the Rangers rink staff and said, hey, in the 50s and 40s and beyond, in this rink, you used to have 2 games in a day. You'd have a minor league game and a Ranger game. Can you do that again? Only with 2 NHL games. And they said, sure. So they did. It was the first and only time in NHL history on March 3rd, 1968, until the bubble in Edmonton last year, that 2 games were played on the same day. And in the afternoon of that day, March 3rd, the Philadelphia Flyers and the Oakland Seals played to a 1-1 tie. And in the Flyer net, interestingly enough, Charlie Hodge started, and he was replaced by my good friend Gary Smith, who preserved the tie, and that game ended 1-1. That night, the New York Rangers, the home team, played the Chicago Blackhawks and beat them 4-0. And also playing with, ironically, in net, Chicago had Dennis DeJordy, who started the game and then was pulled when it was 4-0. And Dave Dryden, Ken Dryden's brother, came in relief. And so you had 2 goaltenders play for Chicago that night. Eddie Giacomin got the shutout for the Rangers, March 3rd, 1968. And then the final little capper, just to add a little bit of flavor to March 3rd, 1968, Eddie the Entertainer Shack recorded his second of 7 hat tricks that he had in the NHL on that date, March 3rd, 68, when he was then a member of the Boston Bruins. And they won 9-3 over the St. Louis Blues. And Eddie Shack had 3 goals for the second time. All on the same date. Can't beat that. Cannot beat that. Let's have a little toast here for Sean Burke coming in. I'll toast Stephane Waite for what's been pretty damn solid 7.5 years, notwithstanding Montreal's overall lack of significant success. But I'll still toast him, believe me. He'll be out of his work as long as he wants to be. So here's to Stephane on a good job. And here's to Sean Burke, hopefully on a better one. And Carey Price regaining his form as the best goaltender on the planet. And the Canadians making the playoffs here and making some noise because they've got the team to do it. All right, everybody stay safe, be well, and we'll be along a little bit later this week with another full official Liam's Hockey, brought to you by Hosie and Brown Automotive and their next series of garages. Take care. G'day.